Welcome to Dadograms. Today I'm talking about genius, what it is, what it's not, and why most people misunderstand it completely. You might even finish this datagram and realize that you, yes, you, might have the potential to be a genius. I'm Jason M. Garrett and I created Dadograms to teach my kids and all of you how to win in life. And this datagram can truly change your trajectory, if you let it. It started out as a conversation with my daughter when she began college several years ago. Let's first consider the meaning of the word, genius. It's thrown around so carelessly that we need to really discover what it means. Most people, when they hear that someone is a genius, they think about IQ and they want to know a number. You know, he's got an IQ of 145 or she's got an IQ way over 150. Anyway, as soon as they hear a number, the next thing they do is they want to compare it to their own IQ score. You know, the one that they got from some test back in high school or some quiz that they took on the internet recently that gave them a really nice high number. But the truth is, almost everything people believe about IQ and how it equates to genius is flat wrong. A high IQ doesn't ensure someone is a genius. It's a measure of latent talent. And a person with a relatively lower IQ isn't prohibited from realizing their talent and one day being considered a high-level genius. Geniuses aren't all freak minds like Einstein or Newton. They don't all multiply huge numbers in their head faster than you can type them into a calculator or design improvements to nuclear reactors during their lunch breaks. Oftentimes, they just think differently than others and actually do something that matters with their thoughts. In fact, Sir Francis Galton, the guy who literally pioneered the study of geniuses, pointed out over 100 years ago that genius isn't about raw talent alone. It's about achievement. He believed genius was distinct from mere talent in that it involved originality, the power to think creatively, explore new ideas, and give the world something it didn't have before. Talent on its own isn't genius. Genius is talent that leaves a mark. So who's a genius? I'm sure you'd think guys like Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton, but how about Martin Luther King Jr.? How about Thomas Edison? Adolf Hitler? Morally different people, yes, but in terms of talent and historical impact, all geniuses. How about, say, LeBron James, Madonna, Mozart, Ayn Rand, Benjamin Franklin, General Douglas MacArthur? Wildly different people, but each had extreme talent, worked their craft, and left a mark so distinct that their names are etched into cultural memory. That's the mark of genius. Now, do they all score 160 or more on an IQ test? No way. And they don't need to, because the talent that made them unique enough to make a mark wasn't measurable on a typical IQ test. The reason? Well, let me introduce you to Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences theory. He proposed that extreme intelligence existed in many forms. There's linguistics, where a person has the ability to use language effectively, including writing, reading, and speaking. Logical mathematical, where you have the capacity for abstract thinking, problem solving, and logical reasoning. Bodily kinesthetic, the ability to visualize and manipulate images, including spatial awareness and navigation. Musical, where people are sensitive to musical sounds, rhythms, and patterns. Spatial, where they have control over body movements and coordination, including sports and dance. Interpersonal, the ability to understand and interact with others, including empathy and social skills. Intrapersonal, a self-awareness or understanding of one's own emotions and motivations. And naturalistic, the ability to recognize and categorize plants, animals, and other aspects of the natural world. And there are many more. For instance, I've known people who are mechanically inclined where they could just understand machines better than anyone else around them. I'm sure you've all known someone who had a unique talent, maybe someone who can pick up a language. They already have 4 or 5, and all they need to be is exposed to one for a little bit of time, and within weeks, they're fluent in it. We've all known the math whiz in school, whose mind didn't work like everyone else. They could just work the problem and get the right answer with virtually no effort. This reminds me of the scene from a great movie called Good Will Hunting, where Will, an absolute indisputable genius, was explaining to his girlfriend Skylar how his mind worked. And he used the example of Beethoven, where he said Beethoven could just look at a piano and it made sense to him. He could just play. Well, in each of these intelligences, you find people who can, to varying degrees, just play. And you'll find people who can just play in more than one area. Some may have a natural inclination towards certain areas, and some have extreme talent in others. But no matter what measure of talent they have, it's what they do with that talent that really matters, and that could ultimately define them as a genius. Let me give you an example. Let's compare two indisputable geniuses, at least indisputable to me. Let's take Tom Brady, the GOAT, the greatest of all time NFL quarterbacks, who won 7 Super Bowls, and a guy we already know, generally speaking, as an indisputable genius, Albert Einstein, the follower of relativistic physics. Very different men. One mastered the physics of the pocket, the other the physics of the universe, but both were geniuses. According to the multiple intelligences theory, it would seem that Einstein had extreme talent in logical mathematical intelligence combined with high musical intelligence because he played the violin quite well. The GOAT, Tom Brady, was talented in bodily kinesthetics and spatial intelligence. Both had extreme talent, and they both made a mark, but they would not have been comparable on a conventional IQ test. In fact, the test that measures the strength of their different talents are completely different. Einstein would have perhaps taken a normal IQ test or a series of tests on physics and math. Tom Brady was tested at the NFL Combine. They each excelled on their test for their type of gift. But can you imagine switching them up? I'm sure Einstein's effort to throw a football and max out his vertical leap would have been laughable. And Tom Brady's attempt to prove E equals MC squared would have been downright embarrassing. Neither could do what the other did. Different talents, but they used a combination of talents that they had, and they both made a mark with it. So what this means is that there are geniuses among athletes, scientists, artists, engineers, leaders, investors, musicians, heck, in any field. And if you master your gift and leave a mark, well, technically, that's genius, right? So we've discussed talent, and hopefully many of you realize that you have some degree of talent in one of these intelligence areas, and that you can use it to your advantage. But that's not all. Let's discuss this idea of leaving a mark, because there are things out there that most people don't get about that concept. I'm going to talk to you about leaving a mark because it's really important to understanding how all of this works. There are people out there, believe it or not, with more raw talent than Einstein or Brady ever had in their respective areas. Really. However, none of them will achieve anything meaningful. They'll never be remembered because they will never leave a mark. Let me introduce you to Christopher Michael Langan. You probably haven't heard of him yet, but back in 2007, he was called the smartest man in America with an IQ around 195. And yet, he's a ghost. He's raising horses out on a farm in Nevada or something while he thinks big thoughts that amount to nothing. He's never published meaningful work, never made a life-altering breakthrough, nothing. And by the way, if you want to learn more about his bizarre story and the disappointing misuse of talent by others, read the Esquire profile on him and other high IQ talents. It will blow your mind. It's called The Smartest Man in America, Esquire article, and I'll go ahead and put the link in the show notes. So what you'll learn from this article is that Langan's not alone. Many like him score high on IQ tests, breeze through college exams, rack up degrees in months instead of years, impress the hell out of their professors, but never do anything. They study, they think, they theorize, but they don't produce. They may have talent, but they will not leave a mark. And the reason might be disturbing to us normal folks. We all live in the world built and designed, generally speaking, by average people. And some folks with too much talent can't in fact operate in the average world. It doesn't make sense to them. And in some ways, it might be best to think of them as handicapped by their talent. And that's part of the reason that they won't be able to make a mark. And if they don't, then by Galton's definition, they're not geniuses at all. They're talented in their own ways, but it's unrealized talent. But there are so many truly talented people out there who are close enough to the average that they really could leave a mark, but still don't. They are missing something else, a third thing that is necessary to achieve on the genius level, something no one else seems to consider. Having talent is a start, but how do you actually make a mark? That's the missing ingredient here. It's another talent that some folks have, but way too many people do not. It's about having a relentless work ethic as you doggedly pursue a goal. And to do that, you need a certain constitution. You need determination, grit, tenacity, resolve, relentlessness, goal orientation, follow through, work ethic, discipline, focus, single-mindedness, the willingness to never quit until it gets done, doing hard things until they're done well. All of these things are so important to achieve at the highest levels. Most people think genius is all about brain power, talent, but it's not. I'd argue that it's better to have an average IQ and an incredible drive to achieve than to be the smartest person in the room who can't commit to achieving anything. Calvin Coolidge, the quietest president we ever had, summed it up better than anyone. He said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." And that's it right there. Persistence and determination. So it seems you need talent to imagine a goal to achieve. Then you need persistence and determination to see it through. Then, and only then, will you have the opportunity to make a mark that can distinguish you as a genius. So do you have what it takes to be a genius? Some degree of talent and a hell of a work ethic. Actually, a lot of you probably do. If you decide to develop the talent and work hard to achieve something, you're well on your way. It won't guarantee success. Making a mark isn't as easy as it sounds, but it gives you an opportunity that you might not otherwise have. And that's it. I want to encourage you to try and leave a mark. It's like Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So hearing that, go get to work. I'm Jason M. Garrett, and if you found this encouraged you or gives you inspiration to achieve, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel. And if you know anyone who needs this message, forward it on to them. If you have talent and you commit to working hard, you can make a mark. That's what winners do, and that's what you can too. So if you've made it this far, you've probably seen that there's more to this video. And in fact, there is. Think of it like an old CD from back in the day. Sometimes if you played the last song and let it keep going, there would be a hidden track far at the end. And that's what this is. Here I'm going to show you how I originally wanted to start my Dadogram, but I knew I'd lose too many people. But if you've stuck it out, then you might be willing to stick it out a little more and learn perhaps the most important lesson of all. Back when I was in college, I was inspired by a poem that gave me the inspiration for this discussion. It gets to the heart of what a person has to be in order to become a genius. The poem is by Friedrich Nietzsche, the sharp-tongued German philosopher, and it's called The Hammer Speaks. And it goes like this. "Why so hard?" the kitchen coal once said to the diamond. "After all, are we not close kin? Why so soft, O my brothers, thus I ask you? Are you not, after all, my brothers? Why so soft, so pliant and yielding? Why is there so much self-denial in your hearts, so little destiny in your eyes? And if your hardness does not wish to flash and cut, to create, how can you one day triumph with me? For all creators are hard, and it must seem blessedness to you to impress your hand on millennia as on wax. Only the noblest is altogether hard. This new law table, O my brothers, I place over you. Become hard." The diamond hardness is a persistence, determination, grit, resolve, and all those other words I was alluding to. So I want to encourage all of you to become hard. in the pursuit of anything you're after, that's how you get it done. That's what separates winners from losers. And if you win big enough, someday they may just call you a genius. Okay, folks, if you finished this, let me know it. Please leave a comment saying simply this: I heard you. And until next time, be noble and be hard.